Well, for more on Brazil's economy, I spoke with Carlos Pio, a professor at the University of Brasilia. I began by asking if the country is on its way out of recession.
Well, you can see that from a few months up to now, industrial production started to decline on a lower pace. The rest of the economy was picking up. International trade was getting to positives. And now the perspective for this year's growth is positive around 0.6%. So we are talking about the economy resuming growth in still a very low pace, but much better than the previous 2 years.
And what is life like for everyday Brazilians, say, when it comes to things like inflation, when it comes to jobs? How are they faring?
Well, jobs are really a big problem right now. I can't remember in my lifetime the unemployment rate being so high, around 13%. Inflation, though, is under control, and we are now heading for a better figure than the center of the inflation target for the first time in almost a decade. So the figures that still do not point to a very consistent situation, but the picture that is the projections are very positive for the middle term. Of course, we are also in the middle of a political turmoil, and that creates a situation where you were still seeing lots of uncertainty for investment.
And speaking of that, we do know that Brazil is still trying to take care of some of these corruption scandals. Let's start, of course, with Operation Car Wash, which is the investigation that has unveiled billions of dollars in kickbacks and bribes to some of the country's top politicians, including President Michel Temer's own cabinet. What is all that doing to the economy?
I think that the impact on the economy in the short term is negative to neutral, but it clearly puts Brazil in a situation that there are some signs of recovery for the future.
Now, we know that Brazil's central bank also made its biggest rate cut since 2009 in an effort to really fire up the economy. What's your take on that move?
Positive, because not only the rates can go down more strongly than they had previously, but that is very consistent with keeping inflation under control. Inflation is going down, as I mentioned before. The expectation now is that the center of the inflation target will be achieved, so that's 4.5%, still a higher figure than most of our countries in the same level of development of Brazil. But comparing to what we were seeing in the country, inflation was around 10% at the time of the impeachment a year ago. This is a very positive sign. So we have inflation under control. We have the exchange rate in positive terms. And we can now reduce the interest rates without hurting the prospects for economic growth in the future.
Now, for investors who are from the outside looking in, they're seeing things like the political corruption, some of the scandals, including the recent meat scandal. What does Brazil need to do to really shore up investor confidence and really try and put a lot of this scandal behind them and get more money flowing into the country?
I think we have to pursue deeper economic reforms. I think that it's time for Brazil to open up its economy and privatize more than it has done in the last 15 years under Presidents Lula and Dilma. I think that the current president is absolutely convinced that that's the path, but he's decided to do one step at a time. So. First, it was putting up a ceiling to the government expenditures that were out of control. Now it's pension reforms. And after that, you have labor reform of the labor environment, controlling, freeing the labor legislation, liberalizing the labor justice. And then maybe you're going to see some microeconomic reforms, and that particularly more privatization and deregulation of the economy.